Welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 24. I'm Nate, your host, the Fit Future MD. Make sure you shop at answersale.com, pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today, and use code FitFutureMD for 20% off. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and comment down below if you see something you're interested in. All right, so let's start with the big news from today, right? The Trump administration admits that the MMR vaccine, along with use of Tylenol, is linked with an increased risk for autism in children. I'm going to repeat. The Trump administration admits that the MMR vaccine, along with the use of Tylenol or acetaminophen, is linked with an increased risk for autism in children, right? So, there have been people that basically have been claiming this kind of stuff since the 1990s, right? That, Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey, obviously being the famous celebrity advocates against the MMR vaccine, or vaccines in general. But basically, they've come out and said that their child changed after receiving the MMR vaccine, right? And they, obviously the Trump administration came along and said, it's also linked to MMR vaccine and the use of Tylenol, right? So, and basically their mechanism of action for this is that Tylenol decreases your glutathione, which is basically what your liver uses to get rid of toxins in the body, right? And if you don't have it, your body can't get rid of those toxins, and therefore it can go on to have effects on your brain and whatever else, right? So, also the Trump administration also has banned the use of Thimerosal or mercury-based anything in vaccines. They also want to eliminate aluminum in vaccines, that kind of stuff. But let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Obviously, this has been hit with pushback from the left, right? But to me, you got to kind of look at who is healthy in the world, who has low incidence of autism, incidence of vaccine side effects, stuff like that. With the closest one to look at is Japan, right? And so Japan, they don't do a measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. They do measles, rubella together, and then mumps as a separate vaccine, right? And the reason they did this is because when they did the MMR vaccine, I think it's from like 1989 to 93, they noticed that there was an increase for aseptic meningitis, basically, brain swelling, right? So, which brain swelling could cause autism, right? Could cause damage to your brain, right? So it makes sense that, they would do that, if they saw that increased incidence. I don't know why the U.S. didn't come up to the same conclusion and do the same thing. So mumps is not part of the mandatory immunization schedule in Japan, but measles and rubella is, right? So keep that in mind. I think the biggest thing here is that it has come across as like, if science comes to a conclusion, you should never question that conclusion ever, right? That no normal person in America is smart enough to question the conclusion, right? And people justify this because, they feel like the public education is so poor in the United States, right? Well, just because you can't remember dates of when things happened, right? Or who, you can't memorize the presidents and keep that memorization for life or stuff like that. If you have an IQ over 100, you can basically read something that's scientific and say whether it's bullshit or not, right? In my opinion. And there are people that don't do research, that just go blindly off of whatever their doctor says, right? Like that kind of thing. And it was very clear, like when I went to go research this personally, like for my own daughter, right? When I went to go research this, it was very clear that we were doing something different than other healthy countries, right? We were doing something different than we were even doing when I was a kid in the 80s, right? So to me, I tried to get my daughter's vaccine schedule close to possible as the old one, the one before all this stuff started happening, right? And so that's what I did. Now, do I understand why they put all the vaccines together? Yes, I do, because it literally made us have to go to the doctor to get a vaccine every month, right, with my daughter. Whereas if you had taken them all together, you're sitting there every 3 months or every 2 months. You're not having to go to as many appointments, right? So you understood why they tried to do that, right? And maybe that schedule was, better for people that don't go to the doctor or don't have money to go to the doctor or, that kind of thing. But, they can't say for sure that the vaccine schedule is what's the cause of, increased autism, but they can say there's a correlation. There's a correlation between this MMR vaccine and taking Tylenol with increases in autism. There's a correlation. They can't say that these two things for sure are the cause, but in my research, I found that the mumps part of the MMR caused aseptic meningitis, right? 100% verified from the Japanese, right? So much that they literally separated it and did something different, right? So, but that's my biggest takeaway from this. It's not that, okay, they came out against vaccines. It's that just because science comes up with a conclusion doesn't mean that you should take it as it's the gospel, right? You shouldn't take it as it's 100% guaranteed forever, right? Science continually proves and then disproves its stuff, right? Like over and over and over again, right? All the way back from the earth was flat to the earth is round to, that kind of stuff. Like, we were the center of the universe at one time in science. We find out we're not the center of the universe, the sun is, right? You find out that, dinosaurs were supposedly, these billions of years ago, but actually carbon dating can break down, once you get over 20,000 years, right? So it's not actually accurate that it was 65 billion years ago. It might have only been a billion years ago, that kind of thing, right? So science is always is always changing and you shouldn't be at a point where you can never question science, right? Is my total point of this post in general. But let me know what you guys think down below. What do you think about, them saying, coming out against Tylenol, coming out against the MMR combination vaccine? What do you think about the Japanese changing this in 1993 and then not having an autism problem? Just let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so on to the next topic. China unveils plans to put a giant solar array in space and transfer power back from that giant solar array using microwaves. Right? Now, I'm not really going to say a whole lot about this, but on the Chinese perspective, this makes complete sense, right? They have, the biggest lithium mine in the world in China. They have one of the biggest populations in the world, the biggest energy needs on the planet. They're also the biggest producers of carbon. They are the biggest polluters on the planet, the whole 9 yards. Everything the U.S. has done to clean up the U.S., China has done the opposite because they just have so many people, right? Like, I mean, they are the biggest polluters of the planet. So, it makes sense for them to want to say, okay, well, we don't have the land to do all this solar panel stuff, so let's throw it into space and see if we can actually bring the power back from space instead, right? Makes complete sense. Now, the size and scope of this type thing is pretty crazy. Like, they want to actually be able to produce the entire amount of all the fossil fuels on the planet in a year from their solar array. So they basically are going to not only have enough power for their needs, but they want to produce enough power for the entire world. So basically completely getting rid of use of fossil fuels, which, if you think fossil fuels are destroying the planet, then obviously this is a, great way to do things. So what would be the potential negatives of something like this? Well, obviously, you got a giant solar array and it's huge enough, you could technically block out the sun from the earth, right? But the biggest reason for them putting it in space is that you don't have the nighttime loss of the sun, right? You can actually just keep it up there and it continue to get sun while it's nighttime, right? So that's a plus. Like I say, it's definitely a crazy adventure here. Let me know what you guys think. Is it possible to throw up a huge solar array in space? Another thing is that they plan to transfer it in using microwaves. So there are safety concerns when it comes to microwaving the earth or it potentially being used as a weapon. You have all this energy up there, obviously. So keep that kind of stuff in mind. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. So this episode is brought to you by London and the Googly Goo. London and the Googly Goo is my wife's children's book. If you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own, make sure you go check out London and the Googly Goo. It's available on Amazon and also in the link in the description. All right, so we're going to move on to life coaching today. James is 35 years old, and he's gotten his first leadership role at work, but he feels like a fraud, right? He's convinced everyone's going to find out that he's not up for the task of being a leader. And, so what do you do with someone like this that has a confidence issue, right? Confidence issues are easy because that's mindset, and mindset is healed with affirmations, right? So, if you don't have any affirmations in your life, you can pick mine up for free in the description below. But basically, I'm going to give James, affirmations. We're going to read affirmations in the morning, we're going to read affirmations midday, and we're going to read affirmations at night, right? 3 times a day you're reading your affirmations. Number 2 is we're going to do things so many times that it would be unreasonable for us not to be successful at whatever we're trying to do, right? So if you're in a management role, you're going to sit there by yourself and go through every scenario over and over and over again. It's almost like a sales meeting, right? Where you go through and you set basically or doing the roles, like you say this in a meeting, this person calls you out, what do you say back, like that type thing. So you're basically going to do stuff like that over and over and over again, until it's impossible for you to fail, right? You're going to think things through like from bottom to top, like, so for instance, if you are in charge of some factory line, right, you're going to know what each piece of equipment does from front to back. You're going to know what each piece of equipment is called from front to back. And you're going to go over it over and 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 over again until you literally are the expert in that field, right? So any person that comes to you and asks you a question, you're going to have the answer, right? Do you pull this lever up? Do you pull this lever down? Do you take this off? Do you keep this? That kind of thing. And yes, just because even if you are in a role where you actually haven't done the physical work before, doesn't mean you can't understand how to be a manager of it, right? So let's keep that in mind, James. If you're looking for stuff like this where you get help with life coaching, make sure you sign up for life coaching in the description below. I'm a life coach, so this is what I do. I help people. And hopefully, if you're having a mindset issue, you'll download the free affirmations in the description and check that out. And hopefully that can help you, right? And I give that away 100% for free. I don't even take your name for it because that's how important mindset is, right? All right. So, lastly, moving on to the quote of the day, right? And it says, "Your life won't change when you get what you want. It changes when you finally decide what you refuse to tolerate." Right? Your life won't change when you get what you want. It changes when you finally decide what you refuse to tolerate. All right, so this basically goes back to what kind of life do you want to lead, right? What kind of life do you want to live, right? I saw the area where I'm from being built up. I saw, them making new interstates. I saw them, like, yes, it took the commute from an hour commute to, 45-minute commute to a 40-minute commute. You see the cost of living going crazy up there. You see farms being completely taken over by houses, and that's the kind of stuff that I don't tolerate, right? Like, I don't condone doing that kind of stuff. Like, you got a state that is country and beautiful, and you've basically sold it out to corporations. Like I say, they could be great corporations. I understand the country is ran on corporations. I'm not a anti-corporation person, but there comes a point where you're putting too much in one place, right? Like, North Carolina's a big state. You shouldn't be putting every corporation in one area, right, in the state, right? That type thing, right? But basically what I wanted was a life that's similar to the Caribbean life, but also has the modern conveniences of being in America, right? So that's why I moved to where I'm at, right? I live at the beach, and, we were able to, purchase a house in 2019 and renovate the house. We obviously bought a house that needed to be renovated. It was not perfect, and the reason we got it for the price we got it for was because it was not perfect. But, I didn't want to be the person living in Chicago. I didn't want to be the person living in Houston or New York. I want to be the person that lived, at the beach. Say, you you get off of work and you could 5 minutes from work, you're at the beach, right? Like you want to go fishing every day, you can, right? That's the kind of place that I wanted to be at, right? Um, so that's what I think of this quote. That's what I think when I think about this quote. I don't want to tolerate living in the city, living in a cubicle, um, that kind of stuff. So let me know what you are refusing to tolerate in your life, right? So you get what you want. I'm a life coach, and so I help people get what they want, right? I help people come up with a plan and execute on a plan to get what they want, right? So if you're interested in that, sign up for life coaching. Make sure you shop at insercell.com. Wear inspirational t-shirts because what you wear matters, right? Inspire others around you. And make sure you pick up your copy of London and the Goo Goo Goo. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.